All right, Dota 2 fans, welcome back. Game 2, Vega versus 4CL Game Show GEC Season 1. We're going to get the draft underway real quick here. Saxa's Bane actually going to garner that first phase ban we mentioned, as Game 1 was the first game of the day that Bane made it through that first pick, first ban phase. How do you feel about Vega being cornered in to this one position tiny pick here?
This is what I was expecting from game 1, except the other way around, where I thought Vega would first pick IO and then 4CL would take a Tiny with a Bane or something, or a Tiny Lich. So, did not expect out of Vega as much, but definitely after last game, it's no surprise where they're like, okay, we can't give him IO Tiny again, but there's a lot of other problem heroes. They don't want to give away Tusk. Last game, I felt like they were pressured into first picking Tusk, because if they take the IO, then you're giving away a Tusk with a Tiny, which is kind of a fearsome duo. So I feel like all in all, 4CL just seem to have a slight edge in the draft as far as how the openers play out. They just have some heroes that they're slightly better at.
Yeah, Vega going to actually end up banning the Huskar out themselves, interestingly enough, as the AA ban came out from 4CNL, so a little bit too worried about that pickup coming out on top of the IO Spirit Breaker opening already. So definitely some global presence available to 4CNL here, and often they run this SB out of the 4 role, but we'll see where it ends up going here. Thus far, a pretty strong opening for Vega, but Tiny's going to need one of those partners to help him to gain a little bit of both farm and gold bounty early on for him to start to get rolling, as without one, he's pretty weak in lane.
Yeah, so we'll see targeted support bans from 4CL. No surprises there. Vega, I mean, already with Tiny SF. The Brood, though, not banned out. Something to always keep in mind when you're versing Vega Squadron, and something that is a possibility for a possible, like, 4th pick here if Vega want to go that direction.
Yeah, and if he goes something like that Dagon build, he can blow up the IO pretty quickly. I mean, often you'll see Mag go a little bit more fight-oriented in terms of his Brood builds, but Disruptor pickup going to be kind of a standard IO counter for Vega Squadron here. They're going to ban out the Bristleback, which is one of the other more common IO partners, and certainly deals well against Tiny, who has is pretty lacking in the base armor department.
Yeah, so looking at IO partners, so there's CK, which is not good against Tiny, and probably just not good in general this game. Sven is not bad. It's a BKB hero. Matches up alright against Tiny, who doesn't have the best armor until he completes an AC. Has a lot of damage for an SF, so definitely a possibility. There's some classic ones like Gyrocopter if you want to go that direction, but we'll have to see what 4CL have in mind as far as the IO +1 goes.
Yeah, Gyro being available in the pool, a little bit peculiar at this point, but with the Viper Spirit Breaker pickup, but 4CNL feels like they really need some late game scale, else they'll have to hit a stride pretty early on and finish this game within a timing window. Vega is going to go for a bread and butter pick, one that they haven't been able to get all day in this Night Stalker.
Yeah. Okay, so it will be IO Gyro. That to me was the most standard and safe pick here for the IO partner, and just gives you some early game fight and damage output, which you were lacking. You have Viper and Spirit Breaker. I guess Spirit Breaker, you kind of mentioned, could be a support, could be an offlaner. Neither of these dishes out huge amounts of burst damage like a Gyrocopter with Rocket Barrage cooldown can do. So I really like the pick. I think it fits a big gap in 4CL's lineup, and I think it was more important to get a more well-rounded pick than get like an obvious IO partner. And Gyro is kind of a mix of both. The other hero that maybe could have worked was something like a Juggernaut, but probably not quite as good an IO partner as a Gyro can be.
Yeah, Witch Doctor ban is going to come out from 4CNL, of course. Always pretty nice against IO +1 as well, with that cask bouncing through. And the physical damage of the Death Ward, not going to be worried too much about Corrosive Skin, so it could have been nice pickup for Vega Squadron 4CL with a wise ban there. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they relegate the Spirit Breaker to the 4 role, or if Bambo actually ends up picking it up. And it looks like Vega Squadron, we're anticipating that it is a core with the Wyvern ban coming up.
Yep. And same thing applies for the Night Stalker, because I was looking at this, normally it's Solo who plays the Night Stalker, but 4CNL banning out a Witch Doctor, they're expecting possibly Mag's hands on the Night Stalker, so possibilities are there. No pesky Darkseer to go with the Night Stalker. That was banned out way back in the first stage, so there isn't really any really dangerous dual lanes that you could put with the Night Stalker, I feel. The Brood is still a slight possibility, although Spirit Breaker charge is not bad against the Brood with like a charge plus dust. Gyrocopter in lane, early levels you can do okay with a Sentry Ward to support you, so maybe something 4CNL just saying, well, if they pick the Brood, we'll just have to deal with it as best we can.
Yeah,
It's also quite a greedy pick because you've got SF and Tiny, so you've already got two very farm-dependent heroes who need a lot of space. So it's not like you've got like a safe laner who's more of a tempo controller.
Yeah. I was thinking Undying is a possibility for Vega if they want to put that Night Stalker into the support role. IO being a strength hero, Undying pretty damn effective against it. I feel like it starves the Tiny a bit in the sense that Disruptor is not really great at poking in lane and supporting up his Tiny, but could wreck the early game for Vega and maybe get that Night Stalker off to a pretty hectic start.
Yeah, I quite like the idea of Undying here. Does shore up their lanes and just gives you that good early to mid game fighting power. Gyro pretty good against the zombies, just with the flak, I guess, is one thing, but they go Lich, so it's lane control. It's 4CNL who picked the Brood. Okay, I was just kept talking about the Mag Brood, but let's talk about Bambo's Brood, because he's going to be the one actually handling that pesky hero, and, well, Lich, pretty damn awful at dealing with the Brood, so it's going to be all up to this Disruptor plus Tiny, lane, and I think all in all, that's a lane that Brood is going to be feeling pretty good about getting some XP and farm and causing some problems there.
Yeah, he should have pretty much free reign, be able to contest all the pulls from the Disruptor, be able to deny up Tiny a little bit. Of course, Tiny having great base damage, but with all those spiderlings, Tiny with the low base armor early on is probably going to be forced into, at the very least, a stout shield. So Bambo certainly also pretty capable on this hero, just as much as Mag is on the opposite side. So Nikwa going to be able to pick up his Viper again and perhaps has a little bit more of a standout performance in this one. And they're able to rally around him rather than vice versa. But Pycat definitely comfortable on this Gyro, and all around feels pretty stable for 4CNL, although, as you alluded to in the draft, Vega going to have some pretty good lane control of their own.
Yeah. And one of the things I like at the 4CNL draft around the Brood is that we're seeing more and more that teams will, at some point in like the first, like between the 5-10 minute mark, will give the Brood like 1 to 2 ganks to really help the hero snowball. Early on, you want to give Brood the solo XP, you get level 4 5, you build up your Spiderling army, and then a gank comes in. Spirit Breaker, perfect for that with a charge. Later on, around like the 10 to 15 minute stage, you've got the relocate from a gyrocopter. So you've got great options as far as backing up a Brood go, and that's something which I feel is really important when you want to fit a Brood into your draft.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams have really tried to get their Gyro active as soon as he picks up a couple of levels, and having that relocate to bring you right back to lane could be very nice for Pycat to continue to accrue some farm. Speaking of Pycat, he's going to pick up that Gyrocopter for 4CNL on the Radiant side. Saksa is going to be playing that 4 position Spirit Breaker. We're going to have EGM on his signature Wisp, Nikwa towards the mid lane on the Viper, and finally Bambo going to pick up that safe lane Broodmother.
Yes, and interesting. It feels, I wonder if this is like mind games or what, because I don't know. 4CNL have not scouted these lanes, but I don't know if they're expecting Mag to be solo top. Vega were actually just planning on saying, screw it, let's just send Nightstalker top against Brood. He'll lose the lane, but we'd rather he lose his lane and Tiny get farm than we send Tiny top and then lose like all lanes. So they're basically saying we can win bottom lane and then worry about everything else. And well, this is interesting. Musical lanes, and I don't think 4CNL were necessarily expecting this, but the outcome is still okay for them, and now they will see Mag up top, so they know what kind of lanes they're getting here. It's just so funny how the off lane is now like the lane you send your carry to. Secret were the first team to really start doing this, where they would send Envy to like the off lane with a
Bane or something like that.
And Ember Bane, even like a PL or a Spectre, and something's in the off lane. You're just like, what? Why is the carry in the off lane? Well, it's sometimes just the easier place to lane for the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, Sioma looking to accompany his Shadow Fiend mid is actually going to get harassed pretty heavily with the Orb effect from Nikwa and the extra tether move speed from EGM. So he'll be forced back for now, and now no one going to have a pretty dire situation in this mid lane.
Yeah. I think all in all, these are the kind of lanes 4CNL want, though. They wanted the Brood against this tiny +1 dual lane. He's not quite as good in like the safe lane against this because they can hug the tower and Lich will be denying a lot of his much-needed XP, but I think the big picture-wise, they're very happy. Nightstalker at top is getting zoned out pretty heavily, and that's a cause for concern for Mag, who's very much put in this solo lane expecting to at least get experience out of it. Yeah,
level 1 Greater Bash skilled up by Saxa, looking just to strictly trade up with Mag here, and so far they have been effective at doing so. Nikwa drops a little bit low mid lane, but yeah, with the bottle charges and EGM's hand by his side.
EGM's like, come on guys, attack me. I need to heal my buddy Nikwa here, because he hasn't got any points in overcharge yet, so his only option is to like take damage here from just going too aggressive, and well, there we go. He'll manage it. 2-minute rune approaching, and that's something that EGM should have full control over.
Yeah, Soul Ring grabbed up on the side shot from Bambo, so can start to look to build up that Spiderling.
Dive up top. They want to go in on Mag here.
Yeah, Rocket Barrage is going to be there. He's going to be able to tango through the trees, however, and Pycat.
He's very tanky. Yeah, Mag's like, I'm just going to go for these last hits while you guys dive me.
Yeah, nice talk with a lot of base strength there, and we'll be just fine in lane. For now, Rune going to be contested. Charge is going to be queued up onto no one. Is there going to be a response? Niqua coming through.
Mid, EGM. One more tick. He's got it. Oh, a Lich actually got first blood at bottom. Okay.
So
even better.
Yeah,
That's
a couple of nice kills going Vega's way, and they survive towards that mid lane and even cancel the charge up onto Saksa. So Saksa feeling a little bit less effective than a Spirit Breaker normally does at this point in the game, and they are going to rotate up EGM's Wisp over to that towards that top lane, look to completely zone Mag.
Yeah. I really like Mag's double mango build is just giving him so much HP regen in lane. Seeing it close to 5 HP regen a second with just tangos in a stout shield. He blocks a lot of damage. He regens all the harass he was taking, and he's now out of actual tangos and consumables for HP regen, but he's still in a great position as far as this lane goes.
Yeah, no one going to be able to stack up for himself. Actually going to fail that one, but has a triple stack there at the large camp, so we'll be able to recover a little bit from this lane.
I mean, 14 have the ward down already, so they're very much gearing up to contest this, which is going to be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, they've got the Spirit Breaker and the Relocate. Well, the Spirit Breaker, theoretically, maybe the Relocate at some point available to them there. Pycat going to be farming pretty deep, already putting a lot of damage into this safe lane tier 1, and perhaps the map control is a little bit more appealing for 4CNL to get more so than starving out this Night Stalker.
You take that tier 1 tower early and you can just keep pressuring this top lane. It really allows you access into the dire jungle, which is where they can much more kind of fluidly contest the SF stacks there. And I think it is kind of like something that kind of Pycat, or the team as a whole, has decided to do.
Charge up top lane, and
well, he knows he's being charged now.
Mag has a full set of tangos now. He's going to be able to get through the trees, but should probably be brought down here as the unit gets a little bit further away from him. The Rocket Barrage comes out. A couple more balls there. Flat Cannon is going to connect. That's one hit and one more right click, but nighttime. Hunter in the Night level 2.
Damn. Jeez, this Night Stalker is just creating so much space for the team and soaking up all the pressure. This is like the problem lane is the gyrocopter lane at this stage, and he's not getting kills. He will still go for this tier 1 tower, but Night Stalker just staying alive here, and he's now looping back. He's got 2 mangoes. He's got more tangos. He's still in a great position to keep fighting.
Bot lane, Pasha's going to find a solo kill onto Bambo, and I mean, meanwhile, they rotate the Wisp up to the top lane, and Niqua actually had to walk back to base and give no one some space over in this mid lane.
They may lose Spirit Breaker up top here. He's going to be very careful.
Yeah, they're going to get the Rocket Barrage off as well. The kinetic field will be there to keep Pycat at bay.
Oh, no.
And Sioma going to be okay for now. We'll be able to get through that tree and trying to kite out the Rocket Barrage with the Void. They'll be able to bring down the Gyro as well. This start for Vega has been nothing but perfect. Thus far, even no one in a lane that he's expected to be crushed in has recovered very admirably, sitting 19-4 compared to the 23-6 of his laning equivalent.
I feel like in some ways Vega's winning all 3 lanes right now. Okay, Mag's sitting on 9 CS to the Gyro's 28 and he lost his tower, but he's level 5. He's got 2 kills. He's kept the supports busy. He's kept the Gyrocopter busy. And all 4CNL have to show for it is a fast tier 1 tower and a decent amount of farm on Gyro is something, but like this is kind of like the free farm lane for 4CNL, and the hero that's contesting the lane is getting a ton out of it. So all in all, Vega are going to be very happy with how all 3 lanes are going. The Brood's dying a lot, isn't really doing Brood things, so I mean this is just a dream start for Vega, just executing very well in the early game lanes. But bottom lane Solo could be in some trouble. Bit of a dive coming out, the Spider's coming from behind, he's got the ice armor, but 4CNL will secure a kill as Tiny looks to counterplay things.
Yeah, TV's inbound from Pasha. Does not have detection just yet on his person. And Avalanche actually going to whiff. Nice tether by EGM to the west side. Mag coming through as well, though.
Still good. EGM, yeah.
Yeah, has the Void toss up, and they'll be able to bring down that IO. Bambo going to be able to skitter away, but either way, nice return kill coming the way of Vega. And yeah, nothing for the Night Stalker to really farm in top lane, so it doesn't hurt him to make that rotation.
Yep. And Pycat just going to stay top for now. Has now hit level 6, and that's the important thing. Where he's had all these supports up there. Hasn't hit the fastest level 6, does get it now with a TP scroll. He's ready to kind of counterplay or look to probably rotate around the map a bit more.
Charge coming through from the Spirit Breaker. It's going to be cancelled instantly, and no one's actually going to catch them on the retreat here. Could have set up for a double raise there, but Niqua present in mid lane, didn't want to engage into that. And phase boot's going to be picked up now.
Yep.
By Mag, can start to get... Actually, still has a minute left in this night time. No one showing in top lane, though.
And importantly, they deward the vision that was in their jungle at the big camp, so it frees up some of that jungle farm. And they know that at this stage, early in the game, they're only going to have one ward in that dire jungle. Mid lane, they've gone in. Nico, the target here, the kinetic field there, the cooldown coming in. Pycat's rotated in, a great cooldown. Rocket Barrage, he's secured his team. 3 kills, 2 going his way. That's the gyrocopter rotation you've just got to be so fearful of if you're Vega. And, well, it comes through. Much needed for 4CNL after their poor start.
Yeah, Mag nowhere to be found as well, and the Tiny over in bot lane. So Vega should be able to take a tier 1 off of this as well, as the response will be a little bit delayed coming up from these heroes that are on the sideline. Sexy Bambo, unfortunately, the Tiny being present bot lane, hasn't been able to pressure any buildings thus far. And rotations are inbound now as well from the Disruptor. He does have that sentry available and will commit the D ward.
Yeah, good dewarding so far. They've found 2 wards in a row with sentries, and that's something which really crippled them last game. But this time around, here we go. Forcing out with the smoke towards bottom. They want Pasha. Can cancel this with it. No, he actually already used the Avalanche, so he's going to go down. Tried to TP out before the charge connected. And 4CNL starting to find some momentum now. They go from kill to kill. They get a tier 1 tower mid. Now they're suddenly bottom with numbers. And this is likely to be a second tier 1 tower in a row, unless Vega have some kind of defense up their sleeves.
Yeah, they are just going to pop that Frost Arm and try for it, but Solo going to be a little bit far forward. He's going to catch the charge. The kinetic field will be there, and it keeps 2 at bay, but Pycat comes from the west side with the call down. First missile, only one needed to hit, and they'll take this tier 1 with relative ease at this point. Nikwa shoving in the mid lane as well. No one pretty much by his lonesome. Night Stalker around the corner, and Nikwa will just look to continue to trade with him, as a Viper can tend to do so. Has that mechanism recipe available, and 4CL's 5-man just seemingly stronger and stronger as the game goes on.
Yeah, and they know Tiny when he respawns doesn't have TP because he died trying to TP out, so it's a very safe cooldown to use because there's no follow-up fight. Tiny respawns can't get there in time, and 4CL, to the extent of they're actually only 4-manning as well. Viper's still being mid, continuing to farm, get his mech up, get his boots, get a few more items. Means they're being very efficient. They're not just all in committing to this 5-man to try and get tier 1 towers. They're still prioritizing getting some farm and item progression across multiple heroes.
Yeah, unfortunately, EGM going to walk into an invisibly affected no one. Shadow Fiend gets a double raise off, but they're going in still with their IO down onto Pasha bot lane. This time the call down is going to be responded to by TPs. First missile is going to connect onto 2, second only onto 1. No one's going to turn with the raises, and Bambo in a bit of trouble. The glimpse actually perhaps saved his life, but he gets raised down before being ported out, and Nikwa in a bit of trouble. Has the mechanism just delivered now. Will be able to pop it and keep them safe, and Pycat going to catch that 2 bounces of that Chain Frost. Solo pretty much left for dead here. The Avalanche going to try and keep him safe with the negative earn tick. He should drop here and will. And the rest of Vega forced back.
EGM did die to some tower blows, it looks like, though. So a 2-for-2 trade. It looked really bad for Vega once that mech arrived, and I think they'll just be happy to have a slightly even trade there in the bottom lane, and also to hold on to their tier 2 tower. They're just not really in fighting shape right now. They don't have a mech or anything on their own side. SF is not quite as farmed as you kind of hope him to be. And this gyrocopter is just going to get out of control.
Yeah. 3 level 8 heroes. The Wisp now has the relocate as well for the Radiant side. They're looking fairly healthy. They have all the tier 1s eliminated from the Dire side. And the map control is heavily in their favor at this point. Not something you want. And when you have a Night Stalker, certainly it is part of your plan to start to establish some semblance of map control. And with the Broodmother webs, as well as all these tier 1s missing, Vega are playing very blind.
Yeah, and 4CNL are just 5-manning with a Brood, a hero known for his split push and like 4-1 kind of split action, but they're saying, look, let's just bring the Brood along. He can give Spiderlings, he can scout, he can use the webs around to just fight. And at this early on in the game, like Spawn Spiderlings is a pretty high damage nuke. Brood's mobility really works in his favor, so this is kind of a good timing for the Brood to be fighting, at least for the next 5 or 6 minutes before Tiny gets a blink, before SF gets a mech, before Disruptor even has Static Storm. This is a really nice way to be playing things.
Yeah, we've yet to see a Static Storm, and not even, of course, skilled up level 5 Disruptor at this point. Hasn't really been able to counter up the Spirit Breaker well enough, has been kind of moving around the map and really reactionary nature to 4CNL. They have been dictating the pace of this game despite having a little bit of trouble very early on. It was 5-0 at about the 6-minute mark and is now 9-8 4CNL Really having a good stretch of engagements here, being able to take objectives off the back of it.
Yeah, and I think SF is one of these kind of key heroes that needs to start picking up items as soon as possible. Not sure the mech is still the way to go. May just see something like an SMY rush just to give him a bit more extra fight and a bit more extra oomph. And the Tiny Blink is also key, but it's also nowhere near. This Tiny has still got a long way to go to finish any kind of core item. That's a big problem for Vega, who have no real good way of initiating a fight unless they can find a catch with a glimpse. But if forcing an L of 5-manning, you have no way to fight into them. Night Stalker can run in and kind of just like throw away his life to try and lead a team fight off, but it's going to be a recipe for disaster.
Niqua rotating through the dire jungle, looking to find someone here. But just going to secure their position up in mid lane, and they're going to bring Vambo over once again, assemble as 5. Like to take out this tier 2. After this, only one outer tier tower standing left in the game, sub 15 minutes for Vega, and the amount of gold, let alone the map control that you attain from taking these structures this early, can be absolutely debilitating for the other side, especially when you have something like ice armor as a tool for defending these structures.
Yeah, this is getting rough, and it feels like as much as the Night Stalker had really held his own in the top lane and kind of like got a lot more than he should have out of the lane, the other lanes haven't had enough to show for the space he's kind of created. SF with just Treads Aquila, and a Tiny with Treads Embrace It. So it felt like Night Stalker did an amazing job in his lane, but elsewhere, not so good.
Requiem popped up mid, is going to connect onto Niqua and Saksa, but no one can immediately go for the TP out there after. The call down is going to connect twice onto 2. Pasha gets the cost combo up, but it's not even enough to kill the support Spirit Breaker. He gets another strike off. Sioma is down. The Frost Nova is going to bounce between the Spiderlings, and the charge comes through on the solo. 4 dead from Vega's side, and it is looking grim, to put it softly.
Yeah, that was a brutal fight too. Everyone just staying alive. The mech timing with the urn, the constant heals, and to say they're pushing higher ground. 14 minutes in, they're like, I guess let's just hit this tier 3 tower. We may not be able to get a Rax right now, but we can sure as hell do some damage and force Vega to constantly defend and fight into us. And guess what? Everyone's already back to full HP. We just had a team fight where we took heavy damage, but mech, urn charges, tether, like we're good. Let's start hitting the range Rax now.
Viper, it's so early in the game. Nethertoxin is only level 1. Generally, you'd consider him somewhat of a pushing presence, but at this point, he is going to catch an avalanche toss. And still, standing on the front lines, feeling very healthy is Niqua. Mech cooling down in 7 seconds. The charge comes through. It's actually going to be canceled there. Glimmer Caved Up was the Spear Picker. A little bit deep behind enemy lines, though, and they'll be more than content with a tier 3 at 14.5 minutes. But Pycat with this S&Y feels fairly unkillable at this point with all that's behind it.
Yeah, and I think just happy to keep poking at this range Rax maybe a bit longer. They pop the mech now, which means fighting gets... Yeah, they're all fully healed up, but they won't have it should a fight break out, and it looks like the plan is to back off. I mean, you just took a tier 3 tower, you just won a big team fight. Chances are you've got some items coming out. Like, they've got 2k gold on a Brood with an Ogre Club, so he's close to completed BKB or possibly an SMY. Viper's got just Tread. I mean, Treads make a big difference. We're still 50 minutes of the game. Upgrading to Treads on a Viper is actually a decent boost in HP, survivability, and just general damage output. So there's no reason to rush things here if you're 4CNL and you've just picked up a huge lead here in game number 2.
Yeah, it's almost a 10k net worth lead generated by that Radiant side. And, I mean, it's so early in the game that experience is roughly at parity for both these sides, but the gold lead immense with all these structures eliminated, and they're going to put some permanent damage into this range Rax here with Niqua on the front lines. The avalanche is completely going to whiff coming out from Pasha. It's not going to queue any more aggression because they're getting this damage for free onto the structures, so no reason to die for them here. Pycat going to catch a couple of raises in. The Chain Nova will go out. Chain Frost, I should say, will go out. The glimpse back onto Pycat. Glimmer Cape is there, though, and Niqua just going to jump forward onto Sioma. They do get the toss combo off, but Mag is going to take tons of damage in the meantime as the call down comes through. They lose one. That's the Spear Breaker. Niqua still standing strong on the front lines, and he'll bring down the SF. The Death Requiem will finish off.
Buyback's forced. Now you can just back off. If you can cut your losses, you're fine here. You took a ranged Rax. You got 3 kills and 2 buybacks. You've only lost the Viper Spirit Breaker. This is so far so good. And they're going to get an extra kill. Vega have chased too far with the Night Stalker. They get one more. And Pycat says, I've still got a lot of HP here. This SF does not have souls right now. And he's ready to continue to fight with this SMY.
Dieback coming out from Mag's Night Stalker. And yeah, 16 minutes in, this melee Rax is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
However, as you mentioned, it's a really costly defense for Vega. So
Doesn't look like they're going to get it now, but hey, they can come back later. It's very much like the experience is not going to change all too much because 4CNL are so insistent on continuing to 5-man and just use their powerful lineup right now. No one's trying to be a bit sneakier in the mid lane, but he's like, I could go for like a little Shadow Amulet Requiem play, but I've also got no souls yet.
Yeah, just coming off death, not going to be the most potent. And it's fairly close at that point, but the entire refreshed lineup of 4CNL is going to jump towards that mid lane, and with the urn and the bottle, they'll be able to heal up Highcat to full here, throw up Niqua on the high ground, and rinse and repeat. He's got 2 components of the Sand as well, so Viper getting ever more tanky.
They're not even going for Roche, and this is, if they wanted it right now, a free Roche for all intensive purposes, but recognizing that Vega, they're under the gun right now. You get a kill on one of these core heroes who just use buyback, and suddenly you've taken a melee Rax, which is almost just game over at that point.
Yeah, Niqua standing up on the front lines, and none of Vega really wanting any of it. They have really no means of initiation. A glimpse generally would be that case, but when you're standing in the same spot for pretty much minutes at a time, Disruptor not going to feel too effective, and toss combo in, not really great with any of the heroes. The Static Storm completely blown on the east side for Bambo. He'll be able to walk out underneath the pathing offered by the web. Sax had a little bit of trouble deep behind enemy lines. The Avalanche will finish him off. No one having to Shadow Amulet on the spot, but all the meanwhile, this melee Rax pretty much eliminated. The glyph will be there for now.
It's taking so long. This ice armor and now a glyph, and no one can go for the deny. Oh, cheeky. And they've, conceded mid lane. 1 lane down. Vega. This is where I think you fall back. Okay, all your pressure for the last 5 minutes, you've got a melee Rax. Now you fall back, take Roshan, and you don't delay the game out, but you make your next push with an Aegis. I think having the 1 Rax advantage, it means Vega are very much in deep shit right now. So
yeah, be a little more methodical about it. You know they're going to have their farm stymied by virtue of those mega creeps coming through that mid lane, and sure, they'll have a couple more items come up, so you just ensure that you'll have answers to that up in the next high ground push, and they definitely will with all their map control available. So yeah, feels like that top lane that went so well for Vega really hasn't reared its ugly head at all. 4CNL more than willing to give that up, and I mean the IO is sitting on higher net worth than the Tiny at this point.
It's really sad. He's still just trying to complete the Blink Dagger, and I think you go for the Blink just so you have a way to initiate and try and find a quick pick on someone like EGM's IO, who's just such a key hero in these fights. Have to try and catch him before he uses his Glimmer Cape. He's sitting on 1100 HP, so
no one is less than 1,000 in the entire Radiant lineup.
It's really hard to burst down EGM, even with the Blink Dagger on Tiny. That's really the big problem here. But he's going to have it for this next fight. And they're not actually going to wait for Roshan. That's probably that would have been the call I make, but they, I think, recognize how bad a spot Vega in right now and just want to keep on pushing.
Yeah, they do find a pick, though, on the top lane.
They've got a tier 3 tower already, so that's...
worthy trade, to say the least, sub 20 minutes.
Oh, Spirit Breaker says, no time to waste. We want to end our day and just go home.
Highcat?
Oh, nice Shadow Blade. He's going to get the kill. No one making good use out of that. And Bambo on the front lines with a BKB, though, looking for the counter kill. Can no one be kept alive? Doesn't look like another nuke coming up in just a second. He'll get the kill. And Bambo, he's still got lots of webs to play around, but doesn't look like he's got an answer to the Tiny here. Or does he with EGM? A relocate out! Oh, boy. As if things couldn't get any worse for Vega. And they've still got a Rax issue here at bottom lane, and Viper just trying to finish off this range Rax. It is permanent damage, so they can just come back for it. They don't have to finish off now, but with the relocate back in, they say, let's go for another round. Nice glimpse, pushes the Brood back to the fountain, which means 4CNL are fighting with just 3 heroes here, but that doesn't seem to be a problem as they get another kill on the Night Stalker. Sioma being chased back to fountain, and there we have it. GG's called. 20 minutes is all it takes. And 4CNL get a 2-0 victory.
Yeah, Vega certainly continuing their unstable ways in these past couple. It doesn't feel necessarily like a drafting issue. It feels like more communication slash execution on their part. And yeah, 4CL, not to take away from them, looking really strong and playing heroes they're certainly comfortable with. Vega, perhaps a little bit of hubris in this one, giving the IO over to 4CL 2 times in a row.
Yeah, and very much forced into unconventional lanes. The last pick Brood for 4CNL was really clever. And then Vega also... I don't like seeing Vega go for the Tiny without the IO. I think that's just not something that they... It's not a hero they pull off. Some teams we see run a lot of the Tiny in the past, like NIP used to do that. We see 4CNL do that a lot. to me, Vega's just not a team who really thrive with the just isolated Tiny. So I think that's something where it's like, well, we don't want to give them IO Tiny, but I think the better plan rather than taking the Tiny was just to ban out the IO. It's a lot. You can just control the draft a lot better from there. Give them as high. I mean, I've been talking and telling Winter like all day long, man, this Tusk hero is just so OP, man. When's OS Frog gonna nerf him? But like against it, you've got to very much take it team by team. And yes, 14L play a good Tusk, but EGM plays like one of the best IOs in the world. So
you need to take that hero away from them. And yeah, it feels like it was a little bit of anti-synergy in the Vega draft as well. I mean, you go for a disruptor early on. You want to get aggressive with him. He's not the greatest lane controlling hero. And then you fifth pick a Lich to try and get at least one of your lanes to crush. And you're just unable to do so up against that safe lane from 4CNL. So overall, it feels a little discombobulated for Vega. They've got a very tall order to fulfill in their last series of the day, with Empire coming up looking extremely strong, certainly the strongest of the tournament thus far.
Yeah, having just 1 point in 2 series means we're looking at, like, I feel like they need to get like at least 1 point against Empire to at least go into tomorrow being like, okay, we took a game off Empire, we've got 2 points now, and also we've proven that we're not just like completely in this terrible state right now. Like taking a game off Empire is, to me, more than the point, it's a confidence booster, which is what Vega needs right now. So we'll see. Both teams are tired. The thing is, Empire, while they didn't play 3 games in a row, they've had to stick around all day. So we're going to go over to an interview now, I believe, with one of the winning players in 3, 2, 1. Go.
Ты кидаешь его в героя, да, в которого он непосредственно летит. Второй раз он в кого-нибудь отскочит, а потом может вообще никого не попасть.
Особенно, когда нападали они, ты никак по-другому кинуть не можешь.
Не можешь.
Они нападают исключительно со спайдерлинками, поэтому где-то еще их
to demolish this idea. I feel like they're not that experienced with Tiny, and our draft was like, they couldn't do anything against it. They just got outdrafted really hard the second game. Yeah.
Who is actually drafting right now? I saw it's Pycat.
I think it's Vega, I'm not sure.
How come?
We just changed it like after the last 2 games, so.
But who makes the in-game calls? Is it still
In-game calls, it's usually Pycat, me, Saxa, and just whoever feels like the best option.
Right. Continue. So what do you think about Vega Squadron this tournament? They don't seem like performing too well, at least today.
I don't know what happened to them. After like the major, I thought like they were going to be the top team, but they've been declining somehow. They lost their confidence or something. Maybe they'll get it back someday.
Do you think it's because they attended so many tournaments within the short period of frame, like Frankfurt, the DreamHack, and this one?
It's possible. Fatigue is a thing, but you have to ask them. You can ask me.
Okay. Well, good luck next games tomorrow. Thanks for the interview.
Thank you.
And thank you.